Allen Lund Company has new offices in Ogden, Utah and Indianapolis, Indiana. Check allenlund.com to reach them.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
Earlier this week, an incident involving an electric truck going up in flames ended up closing a major American interstate highway. And now, the U.S. Department of Transportation will hold a meeting to discuss that very topic. I'll cover that and a move by DOT to set up a timeline for vehicle-to-everything technology with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. Broker problems continue to be a major topic for truckers calling into OOIDA for help, and some specific issues indicate that the broker bond is at the center of much of the concern. I'll discuss that and more with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. And finally, 6 states are revising their rules that govern the use of cameras to enforce speed limits and red lights. Meanwhile, Wisconsin has set up a program to help train more truck drivers. Scott Thompson discusses both with our state legislative expert, Keith Goebel. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today. Although freight movement at the southern border continued to grow, a significant slowdown in Canadian freight caused a net decrease in freight hauled across U.S. borders in June. That's according to the latest numbers from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. Truck freight valued at nearly $87 billion was hauled across the borders in June, a decrease of 2% compared to a year earlier, and a decrease of 4% when compared to May. The year-to-year decrease was just the 4th time in 3.5 years that cross-border freight showed signs of regression. The declines were largely spurred by declines to the north, while cross-border freight hauled by trucks across the U.S. southern border increased by 3% compared to a year earlier. The value of freight at the northern border dropped by 7%. In its monthly economic report, Motive said Mexico has firmly established itself as the U.S.'s largest importer. With Chinese imports down 20% year to year, U.S. companies are moving nearshoring to Mexico. The work stoppage north of the border we've been saying could happen now has happened. Both Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City separately locked out union workers early Thursday morning. Labor negotiations between the railway companies and the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference have been stalled. In a statement, Canadian National said the union did not respond to their latest attempt to avoid a labor disruption. CPKC said in a separate statement that they have been bargaining in good faith, but claimed union leadership continues to make unrealistic demands that would fundamentally impair the railway's ability to serve customers. What happens next remains to be seen. In the short term, experts don't expect many disruptions to the supply chain, but the longer the work stoppage drags on, the more likely problems are. The National Transportation Safety Board is launching an investigation into an electric truck fire that closed down Interstate 80 in Northern California on Monday morning. It happened just east of Nyack. Investigators say a Tesla semi reportedly veered off the interstate and crashed into a wooded area, then caught fire. No one was hurt, but the situation quickly turned into a hazmat situation that closed down I-80 for about 16 hours. The NTSB said it's joining the investigation due to its interest in the fire risks associated with lithium-ion batteries. The timing coincides with a meeting that was scheduled before Monday's incident. The U.S. DOT on Tuesday, August 27th, will hold a public meeting on electric vehicles and fire safety topics related to lithium-ion batteries. It's been labeled the Battery Safety Post-Incident Stakeholder Meeting. Experts from a variety of fields are scheduled to discuss battery safety, EV standards, and the ways in which emergency management services are dealing with lithium-ion battery fires on the nation's roadways. The Washington Trucking Association's expressing strong concerns about the state's push to adopt California-style emission standards for heavy trucks. In a letter to Washington Governor Jay Inslee, WTA President and CEO Sherry Call said the push for zero direct emission trucks will place constraints on the trucking industry and reduce supply chain resiliency. There's also a concern about the cost burden, the range, and the current lack of infrastructure needed to accommodate the ambitious goals, issues Call says will affect truckers and, by extension, consumers when the cost is passed down to them. Call wrote, "There is no such thing as a free lunch, and the Advanced Clean Trucks program will drive up costs on every consumer good or service that relies on medium and heavy-duty commercial trucks." Governor Inslee recently signed into law regulations requiring 7% of all commercial trucks sold next year in Washington to be zero direct emission vehicles. The requirements increase from 25% by the year 2029 to 40% by 2032 and beyond. As a compromise, WTA is asking Governor Inslee and Washington state legislators to consider alternative fuels like hydrogen. A number of trucking-related companies have made it onto an annual Forbes list that ranks the country's best employers for women. The media company included 600 companies on its list. Within the transportation and logistics category, NFI Industries was second, Werner Enterprises was seventh. Other trucking-related companies making the cut, AAA Cooper Transportation and Estes Express Line, along with UPS, DHL, and FedEx. Forbes surveyed more than 150,000 women to come up with a list, taking several criteria into account, such as the work environment, parental leave, pay equity, and opportunities for advancement. Brake Safety Week is here. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance kicks off the week-long enforcement blitz on Sunday, August 25th. As with any other year, inspectors across North America will be out in force conducting brake inspections on large trucks and buses, and they'll also have a special focus. This year, it's brake linings and brake pads. Brake Safety Week is announced ahead of time to give truck owners and drivers time to prepare. Love's has a new location in California. It's off Highway 99 and Taft Highway in Bakersfield and includes 113 truck parking spots. Love's says the new travel stop is one of its largest locations in the country. And Travel Centers of America has a new location in Henderson, Nevada. The Petro is situated off Interstate 11 and includes 100 truck parking spaces. And finally, the insurance company Nationwide is out with its annual report detailing the most unusual pet insurance claims of the year. It's called the Ham Bone Award in honor of a dog who ate an entire holiday ham while stuck in a refrigerator. This year's finalists include Archie, a New Jersey dog who injured his paws when he broke through a vintage plate glass door trying to alert his family of the mail carrier's arrival. We've got Bear, a Pennsylvania corgi, who bit into a bottle of nail adhesive and effectively glued his mouth shut. And then there's Lambo, a North Carolina dog who ate more than 250 jigsaw puzzle pieces. We should underscore the most important thing here, that all of the pets nominated for the award have made full recoveries. The winner is set to be announced on August 27th. That's Lane Line Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. A reminder that the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's annual Brake Safety Week will start this Sunday, August 25th, and run through the 31st. During that week, inspectors across the U.S. and Canada will be checking all braking systems with a special focus this year on brake linings and pads. For more information, go to the organization's website, cvsa.org. Again, that website, cvsa.org. Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, are at the Petro Truck Stop in Spokane, Washington. That's located at exit 272 off Interstate 90. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. Registration is now open for OOIDA's Truck to Success Seminar, which runs for 3 days starting October 22nd in Blue Springs, Missouri. Truck to Success features trainers, both from OOIDA and elsewhere, who provide a comprehensive course in what it takes to become and succeed as an owner-operator. The deadline to register to attend in person is October 1st. The deadline to register to attend by Zoom is October 21st. Participants who register before September 1st will receive $50 off plus a 1-year membership to OOIDA for free. We'll have a link to more information at ooida.com. Next, I'll discuss electric truck fires and what the DOT is doing about the topic with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. And I'll cover more about broker problems with Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Truck Down Verified, vendor qualified. Truckdown.com.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Earlier this week, an incident involving an electric truck ended up closing a major American interstate highway, and now the U.S. Department of Transportation will hold a meeting to discuss that very topic. Welcome back to Landline Now. This is Regulatory Roundup, and I'm Mark Rettig. I'm joined, as always, by OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. Jay, how are you doing?
Doing well, Mark. Good to be back.
Good to have you with us here, and this is kind of an unfortunate story here. Just, if you could, tell us something about this accident. I mean, what kind of truck, what happened, and where was it?
Yeah, so this was a Tesla semi-truck, battery electric, operating on I-80 near Nyack, California earlier this week. Caught fire and shut down the interstate for 16 hours. And a lot of that is due to kind of the uncertainty and different challenges that these lithium-ion battery fires are causing for emergency crews, police, fire departments, first responders, and just kind of the characteristics of these fires that can release toxic fumes, mechanics that it takes to put out, the amount of water can be quite time-consuming before fire personnel can get close and extinguish the fire. That certainly was the case here on Monday. So this is kind of another challenge that perhaps doesn't get a whole lot of discussion or attention involving potential transition to electric vehicles, especially EV fleets for heavy-duty trucks.
One of the things that caught my attention was a statement from fire officials who said that it was more like a hazmat incident than it was a fire. And I guess that was because of the fumes that are produced when these batteries burn.
Yeah. CAL FIRE officials who were on the scene, described it as a hazmat situation involving the fumes from the batteries. And they didn't want any passenger vehicles driving by the interstate with the windows open. So that creates another layer of risk and safety. I think it was like they were shutting down roads within a half mile or a mile radius around the scene. So really dangerous and really raises your concerns when you hear about these accidents, because we know certainly a lot of commercial trucks out there are hauling hazmat materials, and if are they going to be operated have to operate with EV batteries that can create another safety concern here.
Yeah, and I think it was lucky, too. I mean, we all know that California is prone to wildfires, and luckily they were able to keep this contained enough, although for 16 hours, but it didn't break into a wildfire, so very lucky there.
Yeah, they said thousands and thousands of gallons of water on the truck to cool the batteries down to about 100 degrees, at which point they could approach and move it. So also added, I think, some aerial cover to drop fire retardant to help contain the blaze, and there was somehow very little damage to wildlife. And the surrounding area, driver of the truck walked away from the crash, taken to a nearby hospital. So very fortunate there, but definitely I think has raised some more attention on this battery safety issue, which DOT and had this event scheduled before this accident took place, but it does, DOT has kind of been aware of these things, but I don't think the public, not sure a whole lot of people in the trucking industry are quite certain about these lithium battery ion fires that are kind of, as more and more vehicles become electric, more EVs on the road, something that we're going to see more of here in the coming years.
Well, let's talk about that DOT meeting that is coming up here, and certainly coincidental and perhaps fortuitous timing, but what is the exact topic? Because it's a broad area. What is the exact topic they're going to focus on?
Yeah, the title of the event is Battery Safety Post-Incident Stakeholder Meeting, and DOT is going to be holding a virtual meeting next week, Tuesday, August 27th, as an opportunity to share information with the public on activities regarding EV lithium-ion battery safety in post-incident scenarios. And I think it's going to be a chance for stakeholders to hear from DOT staff, agency representatives, as well as organizations that have experience responding to these accidents, fire departments, police departments, first responders, really kind of share some information, share some experience, and they're going to run down a whole host of different topic areas during the event, which I think kicks off 9 a.m. Eastern time and run through around 12:30 Eastern next week.
You mentioned they're going to cover a number of aspects of this issue. I'm wondering if you can give us some examples of some of the things that they're going to be covering.
Yeah, the topics covered include what they call stranded energy, fire incident response, certainly the one we're going to be watching closely for, heavy vehicle consideration, damaged EV response, EV water immersion, and then emerging battery technology. So I think it's going to be a chance to learn about EVs kind of in general, certainly how these ion batteries, how they react, how they respond in crashes and incidents, and certainly some strategies and maybe some research that first responders are aware of and want to share with DOT.
You mentioned a particular issue there that I found fascinating. I'd never heard of it before, and that was stranded energy. And it's kind of interesting. I know it's a little bit into the weeds, but what does that refer to, and why is it a concern when you have one of these vehicles on fire?
You might know a little bit more than me. I think it's involving excess electricity and the energy that's remaining in the battery. And I'm kind of looking forward to hearing more about it next week and kind of seeing what the science is involving it. Hopefully, DOT is going to have some experts making some presentations during the event next week. But again, another angle that we've got to kind of be aware of. If potential mandates, potential legislation goes through, and 10 years down the road here, I think California has passed legislation where 2036, all new medium and heavy duty vehicles are going to have to be zero emissions. I think the majority of that sounds like it's going to be electric battery reliant. So hear a lot about the emissions improvements that EVs bring, some of the cost improvements, but we also know there's a lot of operational concerns that we want to be aware of, that we don't want to see this transition happen overnight. And we've kind of raised a lot of questions about that, most notably the costs of EVs, the lack of EV charging infrastructure, especially on the commercial side. But this battery safety, the weight of the batteries is definitely an issue that merits discussion, and really I think some further consideration from DOT, FMCSA, some of these different states that are EPA that are kind of really incentivizing a very hurried transition to electric vehicles.
Well, certainly something they should take into consideration here. Let's move on to another topic here. It also involves the U.S. Department of Transportation, and they are working on a new and kind of emerging technology called vehicle to everything. What is vehicle to everything?
Well, in some ways, it's certainly an emerging technology. In some ways, it's been around for a while and hasn't really been adopted or implemented. But it is this notion, and it's really just kind of this idea. We haven't really seen it, be applied in a practical sense quite yet. But it's this idea of connected vehicle technology where vehicles can communicate to each other. V2X, which is V. The number 2 and X is kind of a shorthand way of saying vehicles to everything. And that kind of encompasses a couple of different sections of vehicle-to-vehicle technology, which crash avoidance, lane-changing technologies, vehicle-to-infrastructure technology, where vehicles are connected to traffic lights, parking meters, different roads and road markings, and vehicle-pedestrian technology, where vehicles can detect bicyclists, vulnerable road users, pedestrians, other road users, strollers, people with visual impairment. So really having the technology to connect everything, everyone on the road in a kind of a smart, wireless, communicated way of kind of improving safety. Again, it's been around for a while, been talked about, been developed, but I think, DOT kind of sees this as an opportunity to improve safety and have kind of introduced this national V2X deployment plan to hope kind of encourage, spur on some of this V2X adoption, research, and deployment here over the next. I think they laid out a plan that's going to go through 2036 with short, medium, and long-term goals to provide some level of certainty for stakeholders, as well as some private industry adoption.
I was reading some of Landline Magazine's coverage, and they mentioned that Volvo Trucks North America, for example, has a system where different Volvo trucks can communicate with each other to say, oh, there's a Volvo up ahead and they've encountered a slick spot on the road.
Right.
But this would involve a lot of different companies that manufacture vehicles, construction companies that build roads and stoplights, and on and on. How does the DOT plan to get all these moving parts to work together?
Well, that's kind of going to be the question. And the plan they laid out, very broad, general, not very many specifics. But really, I think their hope is that with this kind of outline, so to speak, that they're going to encourage more investment. And I think the short term, they wanted 20% of the national highway system by 2028 to have V2X technology, with top 75 metro areas having 25% of signalized intersection V2X capability. As the years go on, that level of adoption increases. But you mentioned that Volvo has some software that they've deployed out there, but it really only works for Volvo trucks and the vehicles that they have on the road, and so can alert other Volvo vehicles of slippery roads and other hazards, but that Volvo network can't communicate with other manufacturers. So that's kind of this question on, we see, automated vehicles. If all the cars aren't all automated, all the trucks aren't automated and can't communicate with each other, is it going to create more problems than currently exists in terms of this rollout? So a whole lot of questions here down the line, but definitely sounds like something DOT has got an interest in. We've talked about kind of this plan that they've laid out. Haven't really talked, we're going to have to save this for another segment here, the different challenges and safety concerns, chief among those cybersecurity. There's a whole lot of other government departments, U.S. Department of Commerce specifically, that has raised questions about national security concerns surrounding connected vehicles.
Definitely something to think about. And, of course, they've got to think about all the vehicles that are already out there that don't have any of this.
No doubt.
Big questions there. Well, Jay, thank you very much for the update on all this. We certainly appreciate it.
Sure thing.
I've been talking with OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, Jay Grimes. And, of course, you can keep up on this issue as it develops by going to the website landline.media. Again, that website, landline.media. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Landline now. Welcome back. Broker problems continue to be a major topic for truckers calling into OOIDA for help, and some specific issues indicate that the broker bond is at the center of many of the concerns. Here to discuss that and more are Tom Crowley and Aaron Lynch of OOIDA's Compliance Department. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here, Mark.
Thanks as always, Mark.
Well, based on something that you all sent to me earlier, there seems to be a rise in carriers filing on these broker bonds. And so it might be useful, I thought, to maybe go through some of the details on how that happens, when it happens, and so on. How often are carriers filing right now? And do we have an idea of what percentage of brokered loads end up having the bond filed on?
Well, it would be hard, Mark, to know a percentage of loads that are filed on. I mean, there are some. You hope that percentage is low. You really hope that it's low, that brokers just do what they're supposed to do and pay. But there is a rise. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact of you have many more owner-operators out there than you used to. You used to have more folks leased to a carrier, and now just due to the times, due to CSA scores and just all kinds of stuff, carriers don't want to lease people on. They want them to be owner operators, have their own authority. They still want to treat them like a leased company, but But as far as filing on the bonds, I mean, we do get calls on that. I get probably several a day. I'm sure Aaron gets several a day.
Yeah, I do.
Asking how do you file on a bond, and it's some good information to get out to people.
Okay. What types of brokers are being filed on the most often? I mean, is there a pattern here and based on the calls that you all are getting?
Types, as far as freight goes, I can't really tell you from that perspective. There's not really a way to track that. But I would say newer brokerages that have been in business 6 months or less, or even a year or less, are the ones that are where it comes from the most, I would say.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, and a lot of it has to do with the fraud that's going on out there. The fraud is rampant. And when you haul for a broker that you've never hauled before and you see that they've only been around for 3 months or, something like that, man, be leery, because those are I don't want to say all the scammers, because there probably are some new brokers that are legitimate, but that's the majority of the ones that we see. The brokerages that have been around a number of years, I mean, on occasion you get something like that, and it's usually a dispute between the carrier and the broker or whatever. But they tend to be new brokers, less than 6 months. And if you look at their license L&I, license and insurance information, a lot of times you can see that they already have a pending bond cancellation. Due diligence. Carriers, you got to do that. You got to do that background check. You got to make sure you know who you're talking to and that they are legitimate.
Well, and even for brokers that have been in business 8, 10, 15 years, another aspect you can look to is if they're changing insurance companies every single year. That would heighten my thought process as far as that goes. Maybe they don't pay their bills.
If they've got a new bond listed every year, different bonding company, there's probably a reason behind that.
Or if they have a trust fund instead of the actual bond too, that means something.
Which I think they're doing away with that situation. Yeah. But you gotta do your background check on these people. You got to go to the Fed's website, pull up the L&I. Look at that broker. Look how long they've been in business. Have they had the same bond in place for a number of years? And Google reviews. That's a good place to check too.
But you got to make time for it. That especially with the way rates are out there. I mean, you can't afford to not get paid on several loads over the course of 6, 8, 10 months.
Yeah,
you won't be in business very much longer.
No, you won't. And keep in mind too, filing on a bond it's not the best thing as far as getting paid. You'll get paid if, for instance, if there's a scam broker and they put out, $1 million worth of freight haul rolling down the road, and they don't pay on any of that, and so you've got however many carriers going to file on that bond, and they have $1 million worth of claims. Well, you only got $75,000 worth of bond. So they split that up equally between all those carriers, and you end up with literally pennies on the dollar. You know, it's filing on the bond is not guarantee that it's not the guarantee that it's made out to be.
Well, and I think you've said before that a lot of these brokers, they may have people file on the bond, but the bond doesn't typically pay out for a lot of these legitimate brokers. Where it really tends to be the big problem is with those scam brokers that basically just disappear and the bond is left to pick up the pieces, as you say, at pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, at pennies on the dollar. And you're right. A legitimate broker that's been around for a number of years, the bonding company, before they pay out, they will contact that broker to see if there's issues. Why haven't you paid? What's going on here? And typically the broker will say, well, there's a claim on the load. And the bonding company will, you can hear the as they put on the brakes, and they're not doing anything because the broker said there was a claim. It literally takes nothing for the broker to stop a bond if they're legitimate and they answer their phone. Now, if they're not legitimate, they don't answer the phone, the bond will go on through and it will probably pay out. And if you got a $5,000 load, maybe you'll get $500 maybe.
I want to talk a little bit about checking on that bond because I think that's an important part. And you've mentioned one of the things here, but I want to kind of walk through the process. And I know it starts with the Safer website. And just for folks who haven't gone there before, it's safer.fmcsa.dot.gov. Now, once you're on there, where do you go on that website?
Well, to start with, you go on that website, you put in the broker's MC number, and hit search, and that will bring up the brokerage, and it'll tell you if they're an active broker and so on and so forth. Then you, in the top right-hand side, there's a little blue box. It says L&I. Click on the L&I. That will take you to the license and insurance section of the website. From there, you hit HTML, and it will bring up the broker's information. You can, along the bottom, you can hit to see their insurance, to see
revocations.
If they've been revoked, this type of stuff. So that's really something that people need to take time to do before they haul for a new broker.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the many things you can do. I mean, it has their active and pending insurance on file, but there's also a different subheading for past insurance, so you can see their insurance history. You can look at revocation history to see if they have any of those, and you can look at their authority history to see when it's granted. So it's a really cool tool to use. Do I wish there was more? Of course I do. But there is enough there to give you at least a great foundation to make an educated decision, more so than you had before.
Agreed, yeah. It's real important for drivers or motor carriers to take the time to check that out on. And usually when somebody calls up and say, I want to file on a bond, I one of the first things I ask them is this the first time you haul for that broker? Yep. And right off the bat, you kind of get a good idea on how that's what's going to go. So it's real important for carriers to follow through and due diligence. I mean, those brokers are checking on you, guaranteed. You need to be checking on them.
Well, and furthermore, I don't care what walk of life you come from, how old you are, young or older, you'll get good enough if you do it on a continuous basis to where it'll take you 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes to do this due diligence. And that's not a whole lot for running your business because no one's going to care more about your business than you.
True.
Or call up here, I'll do it for you.
Yeah, that's one thing here in the compliance department. We'll definitely walk you through that. I prefer to educate than to just do it for you every time, but I'll walk you through it 10 times if that's what it takes you to get educated. Another thing I want to bring up is regulated freight and non-regulated freight. There's a big issue there. You haul a load of regulated freight, something processed, piece of machinery, something like that, you can file on the bond. Non-regulated freight, fish, chicken, poultry, produce, stuff like that, you can't file on the bond for that stuff. Or intra-state loads, you can't file on a bond. So keep that in mind when you're booking this freight.
Now, you've talked about that before, Tom, and mentioned those kind of fresh food type of items. Are there other types of non-regulated freight that people sometimes trip up on or don't realize falls into the non-regulated? Or is it all pretty obvious?
Well, somewhat obvious. It's usually perishable, stuff that is readily perishable. But that can be chicken and fish, fresh chicken, fresh fish. That can fall into there. Seafood, seeds, different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all, but there's a gigantic list out there. It's Administrative Rule 119. I think we even posted it on our website, or we will in the future. But that gives you a list. It's about 30 pages long, but the more you familiarize yourself with that list, because you got to realize there are some brokers that I'm convinced out there, they will only broker produce loads specifically for that reason, knowing that they can never get that bond filed on.
I'll go a little farther than that. There are some brokers out there that I believe are in cahoots with the shipper to put crap product on your truck and let you buy it because the receiver's not going to take it. And I don't have proof of this. I don't have anything solid, but there's been enough of it happen that I got a pretty good idea, and I think Aaron would agree that it happens pretty regularly.
I would agree with that. But that list, it's a lot of food perishable items. And the reason for that is it's hard for a insurance company to, if there's a claim on the load or if things go bad, it's hard for them to distinguish one way or another if it was whose fault it was, essentially. And so they kind of take their name out of the house and absolve themselves or exempt themselves from that.
And some of that has to do with, like Aaron said, it's perishable product. And, if they put it on your truck and it's only on your truck for a day and a half, 2 days, those strawberries didn't grow fungus in that 1 or 2 days on your truck.
Yeah.
Pulp check that stuff before it goes on. Make sure it's cold, and keep in mind a reefer will not cool a load down to whatever temperatures it's supposed to be. If it comes fresh out of the field and you didn't pulp check it, you probably bought it because a reefer will not cool it down. A reefer is designed to maintain a temperature, not to cool it down to a temperature.
And sometimes on that claim, a reefer download can be your saving grace in certain instances. It can be your golden ticket to proving that you are correct in your analysis or incorrect.
And one thing about the reefer download, make sure that your reefer is updated with the correct time and date on it, because I've seen many reefer downloads that have an incorrect time and date on it. And while it may show that your reefer was not malfunctioning, no time and date doesn't matter.
Or the wrong time and date. You could end up with something that just doesn't prove anything for you.
That's what it is.
Okay. Well, guys, is there anything else real quick? We just got a few seconds left on this topic.
All I'd say is I would go back to the due diligence. Very, very important. Do your background checks on these brokers. They're doing them on you. You must do them on them because, like Aaron talked about before, how many loads can you take a loss on?
And education, I would say. Education is key, and that's what we try to do in the compliance department every day on every phone call.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you very much for all the information, and we'll have you back to talk more about broker issues sometime in the near future. Thank you both.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks as always, Mark.
I've been talking with Aaron Lynch and Tom Crowley of OOIDA's Compliance Department. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline now, welcome back. From speed and red light camera rules in several states to a new trucker training grant program in another, it's time for a state legislative check-in with our state legislative expert, Keith Goebel of Landline Magazine. Keith, how you doing?
Scott, doing well. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. Waiting for fall.
I get okay.
I'm ready for.
You like to see the change of the color of the leaves?
Yeah.
Are you heading out to the Rocky Mountains? Any really
you never
pretty
know.
areas you're heading to?
Yeah, you never know. No plans right now, but
it'd be worth a trip.
Yeah, I think it would be actually. That sounds actually pretty nice.
Maybe the Rocky Mountains would not be the ideal location. They have a lot of evergreen trees out there.
We'll figure it out. We'll get our itinerary figured out after the show here.
Yeah.
Let's start here by talking about the speed and red light cameras. We've got actually a number of states making changes or looking at changes here. Some interesting approaches as well. Let's start with Connecticut, which is trying something new here. And I'm not sure I know what to make of it.
Yeah. Year to year, all around the country, whether it is state legislatures looking into making changes to the use of red light cameras or to speed cameras or both. There's always something going on. So whenever you've got something a little different, like what they've done in Connecticut this year, I might as well go ahead and lead with that. The focus in Connecticut here is loud vehicles. Worth pointing out that they have been trying to address concern about loud exhaust pipes, whether they're modified or just simply loud. I mean, communities across the state of Connecticut, they've already got ordinances. I don't know if all of them do, but I mean, they're pretty common throughout the state of Connecticut. But they've had an issue with being able to enforce those rules. So what they came up with, and it makes sense, if you've got the technology, and I guess they feel like they do, but there's part of a large bill that was signed into law by the governor with a lot of different provisions in it. And one of the provisions that is in there is authorization for localities around the state of Connecticut to use devices to record the vehicle noise. And if the vehicle noise is in excess of 80 decibels, that a citation would be issued. Worth pointing out that, if you're first-time offender to this and you're traveling through Connecticut, it would be a warning, but after that, you would start getting into some fine amounts at a minimum of $100. But yeah, really trying to get serious on the issue that they've got there.
Yeah.
With some loud exhaust.
Yeah, interesting approach there, I think, and we'll see how that plays out. I can imagine there will be some people not too happy with that.
Yeah, and one of the points being brought up is that the devices do not distinguish between a modified issue or if it's just a loud vehicle.
Right.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they have to revisit this in the future.
And then we have Louisiana, which can't seem to make up its mind, it seems, about the use of speed cameras along the Atchafalaya Basin Bridge. This has been an ongoing discussion for a couple years now at least, and I guess they're taking a different approach now. They're going a different direction.
Oh, yeah. It was 2 short years ago that the legislature approved a bill and the governor signed into law that set up the use of these speed cameras again, along the bridge, 18-mile span. Now, the cameras, what they essentially were, the idea behind it is that they were timing vehicles. How long does it take to get from one point to the final point, and if it was determined that that was a little too fast, then you would be sent a citation. I mean, they were still in the process of getting this program up and running. It had a June completion date here a couple months ago, but before it even had that completion date, I mean, there was concern back in 2022, and it was signed into law, and that continued. And with a new governor in office there in Louisiana, I guess the feeling was that we might be able to get this modified, and the governor would, because the governor would be okay with this change in state law. So essentially, what they decided to do was just not use that program and instead rely on local law enforcement to patrol the roadway, which, again, going back 2 years, the reason why they wanted to do the cameras was because concern about having to rely on local law enforcement to patrol the roadway. So anyway, in the end, it was just I got enough lawmakers on board to say, okay, what we did a couple years ago, probably should think about that again, and so they reversed course.
And now, no more.
No more. That camera will not come to fruition. That camera program will not come to fruition again on a fairly lengthy span of roadway.
We mentioned off the top here that we've got several states looking at different changes for speed and red light cameras. We're not going to get to all these states here, but for the most part, the rest of them, in terms of language, seems pretty clear-cut as to what they're trying to do or they are doing, right?
You got states like Iowa that they have not had a rule in place as far as use of red light cameras and speed cameras, even though communities around the state do have those devices. What they did is they put in language specifying essentially that if you're going to have these cameras, you got to have a permit to post them, and the communities that already have, whether it's a speed camera, a red light camera, they have to submit justification for their cameras to the state DOT. So I think already, since this has taken effect, or since it was signed into law, you've got communities that some of the cameras, they've decided to just go ahead and take them down. Which really, for the most part, was the intent of this legislation, to discourage use of them. But yeah, other states that have taken action this year, Maryland with one that covers speed cameras, Minnesota authorizing ticket cameras, whether they be red light cameras, speed cameras, in Minneapolis. Just a lot of activity. There are still some states that have stuff going on the topic, but we will see as we get into the fall whether those actually get passage.
Let's move on to Wisconsin here with a couple minutes left. The state there establishing a CDL training grant program. Walk us through what we need to know here. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, just obviously, as you would expect, with this, trying to offset the cost of being trained as a CDL holder. Grant amounts that can be awarded, that can be up to 50% of the training cost, or $3,000, whichever is less, for each person who's trained. If you have if you're going to be training, the grants are available for those operations that are in Wisconsin, and they are for individuals who will, I guess after they've determined that they're going to be operating in Wisconsin. So obviously trying to limit it to those folks there in the state. It's a year-long program. So if they decide in a year from now that that worked really well, let's consider renewing it. Lawmakers would have to sign off on that. Just kind of, I say, dipping their toe into it to see how it works. But yeah, obviously a benefit for those that are wanting to get into the industry and a way to help them out.
Yeah, and as I said there, I think it's an interesting idea, and I know that when they were talking about putting this into effect, they did talk about the importance of trucking and how important it is in Wisconsin, obviously other states as well too. But I guess there's a question about why they're doing this, and I suppose they just want to make sure that people are getting the help they need if they want to pursue this career.
Yeah, obviously the belief being that they need truck drivers, and obviously wanting to encourage folks to choose the trucking industry as part of their occupation, and obviously being able to help out a bit with the expense to get them going. The belief being that, it's going to be something positive for the industry there in Wisconsin, Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe there'll be another state that'll follow the lead of Wisconsin here in years to come.
We shall see. Landline.media is a place to go for updates on that. Keith, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's our show for today. We thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
ULSD is hurting your engine. Fight back with Howe's Diesel Defender. Get the most powerful cleaning and maximum lubricity to protect and extend the life of your entire system. At a guaranteed increase in fuel economy, and you can't go wrong with Howe's.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget-less accuracy, weigh your truck on a CAT scale.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.